Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Halal Gap. I'm your host, Sofia Alani, and I'm joined by...
Sikandar, your other co-host.
And our producer, Asif. Asif, where are you at?
Hello.
Ooh, so much energy, passion,
Hello.
exuberance.
He's really psyched to be here, everyone. So we got a great episode for you today. Take it away, Sikandar.
He is an acclaimed artist and designer. He uses the beauty of the Arabic script to create contemporary artwork that has been celebrated around the world. His paintings can be found on hit TV shows and in the homes of some of the biggest global celebrities, from French Montana to Aishwarya Rai Bachchan. He's also collaborated on projects with the likes of fashion house Verona Collections and motivational speaker Jay Shetty. By way of London and currently in DC, please welcome to the podcast, Aadil Abedi. Oh my God, I butchered your last name there. Holy smokes.
It's fine.
There's a lot of A's there. There's a lot of vowels that I got to be mindful of when I was saying it.
You pronounced it better than how other people in the past have butchered it, so it's fine.
It's almost a recurring theme on this podcast ever since the first episode that we ever recorded. I've been butchering people's names. So for someone whose name is Sikandar Atiq, that's unacceptable in every way possible. But
no worries. This is the safe space. You're fine.
I apologize in advance. Aadil Abedi. Abedi? How do you say your last name?
And if we're being technical, it's Aadil Abedi.
Abedi, okay.
Yeah.
I am being technical now. Abedi, Aadil Abedi. All right, I'm going to stop talking now. Sophia, take it away for the rest of the interview, please.
Okay, yeah, you can just watch us chat.
Aadil, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
How is DC? Are you guys fully reopened now? Are you guys back into the normal life?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm just on the outskirts. I'm in the DMV area. It's extremely hot and very humid. If I had known that DC is built around a swamp, I probably wouldn't have moved to this part of the world. But no, alhamdulillah, for the most part, things are kind of coming back. But I guess with this whole Delta variant thing,
is it? Did you guys here? We're kind of Western Canada, so I mean, we had this crazy heat spell over the last few weeks. Are you guys going through that same thing?
I think so. This is now my 18, 19, 20. Wow, my fourth summer here. So I'm kind of used to it, and it's kind of, and I refuse to move over to Fahrenheit. So I still, and in Canada, you guys do.
We're Celsius, man.
There you go. There you go.
I lived in the US for years too, and I never decided to ever learn Fahrenheit just because it's a flawed system. So
totally 190. What the hell is that?
Exactly.
So,
just tell me.
It's
if you can't immediately tell if it's hot or cold, then it's not a system that's worth learning.
Exactly. So in my car, in the house, I change the settings so everything is Celsius. So whenever my friends come over, they're like, "It's 30. It's freezing outside." I go, "No, that's Celsius."
So is it because there's a trick for conversion, right? You double it and then add 30. Is that the thing? Like from Celsius,
I think it's subtracted by 32 or something like that. Whatever.
And then half it.
Exactly.
Which doesn't need to happen.
Maybe that's not our strong suit. Let's move on, hey?
Yeah, and then do the hokey pokey and yeah, exactly. Okay, so Aadil, we like to start right at the beginning with our guests, right? And we know you grew up in London with an older brother and sister, but from an early age, were you always kind of drawn to performance and art, or how did that all happen? How did you first learn about your passion of art and performance?
I think it was something which was very organic. It wasn't, I think it came to me very naturally. I mean, in various forms of art, be it the painting, the acting, the dancing, the singing. It was always, I guess, a world that I guess I kind of created for myself just as a method of maybe like some form of escapism in a way. Growing up, my father actually is an avid singer. I mean, he actually he didn't do it professionally, but when he was, I think, around 17, 18, he moved to London when he was 18, 19. But before that, he actually had a scholarship to go to music school in Delhi to become a professional singer. And his father at the time was a complete no-brainer of just, no, you're not doing this. This isn't going to happen. This isn't a thing. You have to go to London and become a doctor. And long story short, my poor dad actually ended up doing that, came to London and never actually was able to pursue his kind of creative passion, because I see it now whenever he sings in family gatherings and stuff. People till date love his voice, request his certain songs that he does, and I always think, wow, how his life could have been different. So I feel, like I've got his gene, I think, from that angle, and then from my mum's side, she's always been a very creative, individual in interior design, home furnishings. She used to, sew our curtains and in the home and do floral decorations and all this type of stuff. So even though everyone in my family has come from a professional background and upheld professional careers, they've all had spurts of creativity. And I think what I just did was, I'm not going to make it a hobby. I'm actually going to, inshallah, do my best and try making it a career. So that's, I think, my first kind of experience with it, kind of seeing it around me and then figuring out. Yeah.
And was did that make it easier for your parents to also then be open to you, pursuing that professionally, or was that?
Yes and no. I think being the youngest, it was helpful because I think my siblings helped, do the normal thing. And they kind of, and I wouldn't say the black sheep, but there wasn't so much friction when I wanted to go off and do something different. I think for my brother, who is a doctor, if he wanted to do something that he wanted to do, it may have been met with a little bit more, my parents would have been a bit more harder to persuade. But I think for any, especially in our community, Desi communities, but I'm sure in lots of other communities, all a parent really worries about is this word, stability, right? Having some form of, job security or income stability. And I think for my parents, that was always their worry. And I think going into any creative career, there is no blueprint. There is no direction. There's no set path for you. And I think that was my parents' worry. Whenever I wanted to get into this profession, what is he going to do? And I was able to, ride the waves of, no income for months because I was staying at home with my parents.
Right.
I didn't have rent to pay and all these things. So they were extremely supportive, but always a little bit worried. And I think that's just the case with all parents, I think.
Your dad in particular, like, given the fact that, he had talent and an interest in like an artsier area, but wasn't able to pursue that, like, did that kind of help or hinder in the sense of him being super like, yes, if this is a passion, go for it, because like I didn't have a chance to, and so as my child I want you to? Or was it more like you have to do what I did, and like, I made the right choice by kind of choosing a more like practical avenue for a career?
No, I think my father, it definitely helped. I think, he could see, he didn't want to do, I guess, what his father did to him and kind of, quash any kind of, I don't want to sound, floofy by saying dream, but, but I think my dad's whole premise was do an education, get an education, finish your schooling, do your undergrad, and then you can go off and do what you would like to do. I think there were certain kind of steps my father wanted me to kind of, or boxes to kind of tick. And then he was like, now you can go off and do what you kind of want to do. And if, God forbid, things don't work out, you have a backup. So it was a mix, I think. It was a good, healthy mix between them.
So that kind of makes sense as to why you then still decided to pursue an accounting degree, even though you kind of. But did you kind of know while you were doing that this is more of a fallback? This isn't where I want to actually be spending my time.
To be honest, no. I genuinely thought I was going to become an accountant. Because my father's an accountant, and nobody in my friends or family circle was doing anything different. We're now talking mid 2000s, late. I was in undergrad from 2005 to 2008. So at that time, it was there wasn't such a huge thing of social media. There was other platforms where you could do various other careers. It was kind of just you do this, and this is what you're going to do. And I think as soon as I graduated, I was kind of like, oh, this is not, this isn't going to be my future.
Especially considering when you graduated too, right? In 2008,
exactly. Yeah. So it was the financial crash happened the same year our batch graduated.
Yeah.
And if anything, I took it as a sign. I was like, there you go, the universe is sending me. I should be doing this. So it kind of answered, made the decision for me at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But we heard that you did land an accounting gig coming out of school for a very impressive 2 weeks. What happened there?
It was just I got fired very quickly. I would go in and I was an accounts assistant. I think I was like an assistant of the assistant, and it was just the most banal job description of just inputting numbers into a spreadsheet and blah, 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 blah. And I'd go in every day. I mean, I say every day for 2 weeks at 9 a.m. and be like, okay, I'm not going to look at the clock. I'm just going to do this, and I would like do my thing, input the numbers, do all the P&L, do all the balance sheets, do all this, and be like, okay, 2 hours must have gone by now. I look up, it's like 9:12. I'm like, oh, this is not going to happen. And I would just take long breaks in the toilet. I would just not want to like be. And eventually, my boss, I think I just pulled a sickie because I just didn't want to go. And then he called me and he was like, "Don't come back tomorrow."
Wait, did you just call it a sickie?
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
That's amazing. I'm gonna start using that from now on. Is that like
a sickie?
Like a sick day?
I think it's a British term we use over there.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not a Canadian term.
I pulled a sickie and then I got fired. So yeah.
That's awesome. That's amazing. That's amazing. And then from there, like, was it pretty shortly afterwards that you landed at Channel 4? How did that come about?
Yeah, so growing up, I had, and no name dropping over here, but a very good family friend of ours. Do you guys know Mehdi Hassan, the journalist?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
So he was our family's been friends for many, many years. And so growing up, he was actually the only one in my, friends, family circle that had done something very different. And I remember, I think, talking to him at the end of 2008, and he was very much telling me, Aadil, you have this creative streak, there are other careers you could go into, and marketing, PR, this, that, production, all these various things. And I was just like, I have no experience in that. I haven't done a degree in that. And he was working at Channel 4 at the time. So he very sweetly organized a work experience for me for 1 week. And then every day, we'd go in together, we'd come back together because we lived in the same town at the time. And he'd be like, okay, who did you network with? Who did you do? Did you impress them? Have they given you another week? Will they keep you another week? And every day I was like, okay, I need to make sure that this Channel 4 thing can last. So that 1 week became 2 weeks, became a month, became 3 months, then ended up becoming like a 1 year nearly stint working in TV production. And I kind of got my other juices flowing, which then resulted in me a year later actually applying to acting school. Right. So, and that's when all that kind of thing happened.
So that was the turning point, would you say, in terms of like, okay, you know what, I could probably do something from a career perspective in something a little more creative.
Definitely. 2009, 2010, there was finally, like, I felt a door had opened of potentially something different. And, it was still very uncharted territory for me, but it was still, I was happy with the fact that it wasn't doing something which I obviously was not suited for at all.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you decided to move to New York to pursue acting school. So why did you decide that you wanted to get formal training in it rather than just jump into seeing if you can land some auditions in the UK and go about it that way?
I think there's an element of just wanting to actually just understand the craft. From a technical perspective, and then even maybe, because we covered a lot of, theory, and there was, accent training and, a movement training and all these things, which I definitely felt was helpful. I mean, there are obviously lots of people who just kind of go into it straight away. I think because I was very aware I was doing something so, again, now, changed my trajectory into a complete different career path, acting, which I myself was so nervous to go into. I didn't want to, and maybe because my parents, at this point I was just causing them stress because they were like, okay, you left the accounting, you were doing TV work, and now you want to go and act. What the hell is going on? I just felt, I should do something with a little bit of structure first. And then I can kind of, figure out what I want to do with networking and all that type of stuff. But I'm really happy I did that 1 year. it opened my eyes to. Well, also I got to go live in New York, and I was a 24-year-old, extremely excited young boy going off to live in New York on a very tight budget. But it was the best. This was 2011 to 2012. So it was one of the best years of my life.
Amazing, yeah. And like, why the U.S.? Like, why didn't you want to just pursue in London, for example?
I think again, maybe subconsciously, there was a part of me that just kind of wanted to physically kind of like just leave the surroundings that I was in. It's funny, I get told this a lot now. I mean, not that I necessarily believe in it, but my sign is an earth sign, apparently. I'm a Libra. So I didn't really know this until later on in my life, but I like to kind of move around. I'm okay with change. If change will develop me, will make me grow, take me out of any kind of comfort zone, then I'll be there. And I did a lot of that in my 20s. And for me, it was more of a, who gets to say, they went to acting school in New York, a British boy, Indian British boy rocks up in New York. And it was all this kind of, I felt part of a story that I was, I guess, trying to, create. And I could have easily stayed at home, stayed with my parents, and I did that throughout my entire college. I never got to live out. I never got to experience actually being by myself. So they all kind of, helped facilitate the move, and and I knew of some people in New York as well, and I have family in Texas, so it wasn't as if I was going to a completely new area entirely. So it was just a lot. It made sense to me at the time just to get up from my little town in North London and head off to New York.
And did you encounter any like real big culture shocks and like the differences kind of between like the acting scene in the different locations?
The culture shock, again, to be honest, I don't think there was too much of a culture shock, except obviously the biggest one being, accent and linguistically. America is like another version of the US, just bigger. And I was still, I guess, pretty young and impressionable, and I was coming with not many, any kind of preconceived notions as to how the city and the country was going to be, because I'd always come on holiday and loved America. So to live there for a year was going to be, so much fun, and finally get to not say have roots, but kind of spend a decent amount of time. I mean, everybody was always impressed by the British accent, and they would automatically just assume that you're intelligent just by you saying, "Oh, can I have a glass of water?" And they're like, "Oh my god!" So it was an easy kind of compliment to get from people back then, so there wasn't anything kind of crazy culture shock wise, and because I hadn't done any training in the UK per se, I would obviously in school and throughout schooling I would partake in drama, and from doing Shakespeare to then doing much more American playwright work, that was a little bit of a shift, but nothing that I wasn't able to quickly just readjust. It was I'm probably going to ask this, but it was probably when I went to India.
Yeah,
that was just.
Oh, we will get into that for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Wait, one more question about the U.S. was: did you find that? And maybe this is something that I'm trying to draw personal parallels to as well. But did you find that the schooling was more important, or the actual network that you were able to be exposed to moving to a place like New York?
I think at that time and that place in life when I didn't really have any network, I think the schooling was really, really important. And especially coming from a complete unknown, background. It wasn't as if I had any contacts as such, or anybody in the industry that was going to kind of help me. There were other students who, my father's a director, or my uncle's a producer, and all these various things. So for them, it was just, I'm just ticking this box quickly, but I'm going to be launched by so and so, and I'm going to go off to LA and do pilot season and do all these things. Whereas for me, that 1 year, again, personally for me, was very much, I'm just going to focus on learning, getting as much, downloading as much information as I can get. And because the school I went to was a method acting school, it was a very specific way of learning, which is very, very intense.
What school was it, by the way?
It was a Lee Strasberg acting school.
Oh, okay, got it.
So the method approach is...
Right. No, of course.
It's just very intense. Very immersive. But before every acting class, for 1 hour... 5 times a week, they'd make you sit on this chair
Oh my God.
in the entire class for an hour, and then make you it was timed, so you had to do this. Relax every single muscle joint in your body, working from your little toe all the way up to your head. And obviously, every time I was like, "For God's sake, can we relax my arm? Like, can we just really act? Can we just start doing it?" But I guess the whole notion of doing all of that was to completely like surrender your physical being to whatever is going to be coming up ahead. So yeah, it was a pretty grueling experience. So but then it was always at the time I would actually go and audition. So I would on the side. I would go off on an audition for Broadway stuff. And funny story, I actually did audition for a very small part in Gossip Girl, which was at the time. Oh,
nice! That was like the final season or two.
Yeah, one of the final seasons. And but the visa that I was on didn't allow me to work. I was on an F1 student visa, and I actually just lied. Telling them, I have a work thing. So I got into the audition. I got down to the final 3, and they were actually trying to cast a Desi character who's like an exchange student that comes to the school for 2 episodes. And they were like, "Oh my God, you're perfect because you're British and you're Indian." And it's amazing. And then when it came to the last kind of stages, and I was like, "Oh my God, like this could be something." They were like, "You need to show us your paperwork of your," and I was like, and then I'd be like, "Can't you guys like do something? You guys are like,
pull some strings."
Yeah, and they were like, "Sorry, we can't do anything about that." So it was funny. So that these little kind of cool little opportunities that what could have happened, but it's fun to look back at it now and
for sure. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. So okay, so you do New York. Was it intentional that you just wanted to be there for the year, do your acting school, and then move on, or like? Because I know from there you I think immediately from there, did you move to India to pursue Bollywood, or was there kind of another intermediary step between that?
Nope, it was pretty much. I finished in April of 2012, and then I was in London in May, and then June 2012 I rock up in India.
Oh, wow.
It was a quick rejiggle my suitcase, let's buy some new clothes, and off I go to India. So it was a very quick transition, to be honest.
And what motivated that? I'm assuming you were probably a big Bollywood fan. Is that was that kind of why you're like, okay, let's start?
I'd like to think we all are big
Bollywood fans. I think I think Sophia might be a bigger one than I am. I don't know. I don't want to speak for her, but I know Asif has Bollywood connections in his family. So
cool.
We can get into that another day. But
cool. It's funny because back then I was kind of very much, I wouldn't say obsessed, but very, growing up watching Bollywood movies, being, very immersed by the whole production, the musical aspect of it, the definition of escapism. I think
like the extravagance of it. Yeah,
totally. And like anything can go, and no one asks anything about it because it's fine. But it was one of those things where when I got there, it was crazy, and I think I left with so much. It's funny because whenever I look back, I mean, it's been nearly a decade now. I look back at that time, and I was just so, I was like, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to, and there's my grandma like crying to my mum on the phone, like, Aadil, why is he doing this? And my family ka naam, the family name is going to go to shit, and nobody in the family's done anything like this. And effectively, words like haram and shaitan was all being thrown around everywhere. So I was just like, and my parents, God bless them, they were very, very, they never kind of let that get to me. Like they were like, look, we trust you, we know what you're going to go off and do. And I'm not some like, preachy person at all, and I never will be. But for me, like faith and, my relationship to God is extremely personal to me. And it was funny because for example, small thing, but like namaz and prayer for me was always very flippant and up and down. But when I actually landed in India, the day I landed, I kind of promised myself, I was like, look, if I'm potentially doing something which is just so crazy, so wacky, who would have ever thought Aadil would go to India and try and do Bollywood, and there's all this stuff. I was like, I have to stick to my namaz and at least just do that, check in with him. And that honestly kept me grounded throughout. And alhamdulillah, since then, I mean, obviously, for me, that's, I have Mr. Prayer. So for me, I'm very cognizant of that. And it's funny how it took me to go somewhere so out of my comfort zone to feel those little moments of of safety and security
Yeah.
when I would do my namaz, and then head off to an audition or whatever, travel in a rickshaw and all these things.
Well, it creates like intentionality almost, right? Where it stops being something that you're doing out of routine and starts being something that you're actually that you're actually wanting to do because you want to be doing it, right? So that makes total sense. And when you went to I think you went to Mumbai, right?
Mumbai.
So when you went to Mumbai, did you go with any sort of a plan? Did you have like an agent and connections and all that? Or was it like, I'll show up and then, whatever happens, happens?
Literally just showed up. It was funny. You would have thought the very structured, very thought out Ireland in New York was complete. No, I had a number of, so my uncle in London had remarried, and his new wife, so I guess my new aunt at the time, she was like, "Oh, my nephew lives in Bombay. Here's his number. You should call him, and he'll help you." So, and I didn't get to talk to him before I reached. So I literally just called him when I landed at the airport in Bombay, and he was like, "Okay, I'll be there." So I waited, I think, like 2 hours, and he came. He's like, "Hey, my name is Sahil, and so, hello, welcome, come sit in my car." And I'm like sitting in his car, never met this guy, going to his house, to his apartment. I'm just like, so what's going on? And then he puts me in the apartment. He's like, "Right, this is your room. I'm over here. So yeah, good luck." And then he just left. And I was just like, oh my god, like shit. And I'm not gonna lie, I have no shame in this. I literally started crying, and I was just like, oh my god, what am I doing here? Why have I? It was like, bang in the middle of Andheri. There's like, noise happening, pollution. It was hot. It was like, and I was like, what am I doing? I was just like, okay, come on, get your shit together. And then honestly, it just started from that. I mean, just getting an apartment was such a bloody ordeal, and they would never give it to a single Muslim, guy. It was it took such a long time to get an apartment. And then in between that, I would go in rickshaws to auditions, and, I would be washing my clothes in a bucket. And it was funny because I could never really complain about any of this because I signed up for it. So whenever my parents would call me and how's it going on, then I'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's amazing. It's very good. I'm loving it over here." And then as soon as they'd hang up, I'd be like, so it was it's definitely, like I said, if that's not, growth and, learning and being out of your comfort zone, I don't really know what is. So,
yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
So then having all this like kind of experience, like, and having it be such a like kind of, presenting this like, oh, this is cool, like, I'm going to do it, parents, like I'm doing great. And then kind of having that like then internal struggle where you're like, oh my gosh, like, did I make the right choice? Like how was that kind of, and you mentioned a little bit about how like your faith kind of connected into this, but like in terms of your like the art itself and like acting and everything, like how did that, like was it just like a lot of passion that just kept you going, or what was like the thing that kind of kept you in it and like still just keeps trying and trying?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the craft itself was something which I genuinely had a huge passion for. I mean, portraying characters, becoming someone else, investing, a length of time into other kind of lives which you could never normally, would never normally live. Those were all the things that would really excite me. But there was also, and I'll be very honest, there was a very human component of, I'm also doing something so off the beaten track where I'm like, I kind of have to make something work. Otherwise, I'm never going to hear the end of it from everybody who told me that this is why you're going, this is such a waste of time, and this is all those various things. So it was like a two-pronged, and that was enough to continue pushing me to kind of put up with all the difficulties. And I mean, I'm not sounding spoiled by saying I had to wash my clothes in a bucket and do all these things. No, I was totally fine to do all of that. It was just so alien to me. It wasn't something where, and I'd be going to these auditions and they'd be like, "Oh, you're from London and you're British and you're Indian and then it was a constant kind of, there was always this inner dialogue inside me which was like, you're young, just give it a chance, you have to give this 100%. Don't think of a plan B. Your plan A won't work. And like I said, it's funny, but like I said, namaz and the small little reflective moments really helped me just kind of pull through and get through. And then slowly, I started meeting some really lovely people. who till date are still my friends. I genuinely feel when you do things, and I was very aware of the family I came from, the faith I came from, the trust my parents had in me. And I think, I feel that my intention was always correct. I was always I really wanted to work on the craft. There was a lot of strings attached. And maybe ask if he might be able to chime in. He knows the industry, and generally there were a lot of paraphernalia, associated in that industry. And long story short, that is the reason why it all kind of finished. I mean, I kind of stopped it before it could even become anything, because I was just a bit too scared as to, I wasn't sure whether I was actually going to be able to navigate this web. That, acting was just one of it, but there were like 10 other completely unrelated things involved to get there. For someone like me, an outsider with no family connections, no Kapoor, Khan, my surname, nothing. And at that time, there were no character roles. So it's funny because my friends in India now, who are still there working and doing really well, they keep, Aadil, you should come back, Amazon, Netflix, there's all these amazing, and then India is coming out with some amazing content now, on TV, TV platforms and OTT platforms. And it's funny because I was like, those are the kind of roles I would love and I was trying to audition for when I was there, because I knew I wasn't going to become like a Ranbir Kapoor and Ranveer Singh. No, I was kind of going to kind of carve a little niche for comedy or my own kind of quirky characters, which I feel now that they are there. But I'm here doing all my life just completely changed. So but yeah, it is what it is. But it was fun and intense for that 1 year. But yeah, I kind of stopped it before it could become anything.
And I don't know if you wanted to elaborate on that at all, but like, I know because now like there's a lot of news coming out of Bollywood, particularly in recent years, about like the nepotism and kind of like that inner circle and just like the real gatekeeping that is done. And so you mentioned that a little bit, but like, was that ever like a real barrier to you, or were you just like, I've got the intention, so like I'm gonna work through it until you decided not to?
Yeah, that was the very. I'm not going to name drop just purely because who knows. But that was the main reason why I kind of stopped. To be honest, it was what are you prepared to do for the role? What will you do extra on top of being fine for the character? And it was always just. And I would always act dumb. I'd be like, "Oh, why? I mean, this is it, right? I mean, this is. I came, I auditioned. You like me, hire me." And it was just no. But the so and so casting director really likes you, or the producer watched your audition and he wants to meet you somewhere, and it was, and I was just, and I'd talk to my friends and then be like, I'll just do it. Do whatever you have to do, just do it, and it's just one time, and then you can just forget about it. Your career will be set. And I was like, oh my god, bloody hell! Like, I've not come this far. I've not sacrificed all these things just to. No way am I going to sell my soul. And this is just my own personal story. I'm not going to blanket the industry and say all of that. But yes, the nepotism is very rife over there, and you have to have some kind of network and connections. Whereas I feel now it's not so much like that. I think it's now more on your talent. But back then, 2012, 2013, yeah, it was. And it's crazy. It's not even that. It doesn't feel that long ago, but it's so much has changed in the last decade. Yeah, who knows? If I was doing it now, maybe I would have lasted and I could have maybe navigated that better. But at the time, and being 25, I was just too, I think, and beyond, I was just a bit scared. I was genuinely just a bit scared.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's not interesting. It's kind of sad more than anything, but it is one of those things where you hear about it. I mean, I've heard from other people as well, people who are in the fashion industry or in the modeling industry, where it's a question of, okay, yeah, what are you prepared to do for this role? And it's a lot of it came to light in Hollywood via the Me Too movement, but I think Bollywood has kind of, as Sophia touched on, it started to bring a little bit of that to light, but I personally don't know how much of that is still kind of swept under the rug. And you've touched on it already, and I wonder, was that did that turn you off from Bollywood, or did that turn you off from acting altogether? Like, was there a reason why you decided not to pursue pursue acting maybe back in the UK or in the US, or did you? I mean, maybe that's a question more.
No, it's a good question, and no is the short answer. I didn't. That actually, I think, really did put like a bit of a sour taste in my mouth at the time, and it's a shame. I mean, not a shame, because alhamdulillah, God had other plans for me, and I'm extremely blessed as to where my life is at now. But at the time, I think when I came back to London, so I came back to London in May of 2013, and my friends have always been so supportive of everything I do. So I love them, and they are my go-to people for everything, and my family for the most part. But there were a lot of people, obviously, who all like, see, we told you, and you've effectively wasted 2.5 years of your life doing all these things. But I never look at it at all as any waste. I mean, who the hell can say they went to acting school in New York, lived in India? I did do a short independent movie. I met some amazing people, had exposure to some amazing cool things. But I think, I think I was also just getting a little, and I guess I was also that maybe that Desi mentality was coming back to me, where it was like, maybe I should just do something safe. Maybe I should just go back and do my accounting. And having no money for 2.5 years, relying on my parents. I'm only getting older. There are all my friends who stayed in the accounting profession. They were now starting to get married and figuring out that next phase of their life. And there I was, I felt at the time, kind of back to square one, after having really tried with the best of my abilities to do something different with my life. And I was back in my bedroom, in England, and just feeling pretty sorry for myself. And I think I went back to I needed money, so I went back to an old job from 2010. And they were like, didn't you go off to come to New York? And I was like, yes, I did.
Don't bring it up.
So, I have no ego. I was like, it's fine. I'm going to go, whatever. I mean, and then that job lasted just a month. And then the whole art story began. And then that's crazy.
So were you painting throughout this entire time? Like what was that a passion of yours that you were just kind of doing on the side while you were pursuing acting, or?
Pretty much, exactly, yeah. So I would always paint just for myself. It was a very more of a therapeutic thing for me. I started painting, I think, in 2007, 2008, and it would just be for me, paintings, that ideas that come to mind. It was nothing to do with calligraphy or Arabic or any typography that I'm into now. It's more just abstract designs and patterns and formations. Anything that, when I looked at it, it just made me feel some kind of inner peace and something that was pretty and beautiful, I think, at the time. And I would always get invited to these charity dinners, and they'll give me like a little stall, and I'd stand there and have my 6-7 paintings and just be like, hello, and and please come, and but it was one of those things where I never ever thought this could turn into a career, because who, again, in the same gamut of creative spaces, it was, I don't know who's an artist. I don't know anybody. How do you even navigate? What do you sell work? How do you price it? What do you do? Nothing. So it was always, if somebody liked my work, they'd be like, how much do you charge? And I'd be like, however much you want to pay. I don't care. I mean, if you want it for free, I'll do it for free. And then even when I was in India, I was actually painting quite a lot in the little room that I had at the time, and just kept them for myself. And anybody who would see the work would always be, oh my God, this is so nice, this is so good. But I'd always downplay it. I'd be like, nah, it's fine, it's just for me. And it's crazy how, like I said, we have a plan, and obviously the Almighty has another plan. And I guess those years of creating all those pieces, my parents, for being as amazing parents as they are, they would put them up in the house. And just organically, people would come, and there's one particular lady, I guess, who saw something in my work, and she was from Dubai, and she told my parents, I wasn't at the house that evening, I think I was out. And this is after I'd just come back from India, back to that job, feeling very shit about my life, and just resigning myself to they'll just do normal stuff, stop trying to become something. And then my mum was like, oh, they need to come home. Oh, this lady came and she loved your work. And I was like, Mum, it's fine, whatever. It's like, oh, who cares? And then turned out that lady was actually very serious about, wanting me to come to Dubai and bring a bunch of work with me. And she basically organized a little home show for me, where she invited a bunch of her rich auntie, uncle friends, and she was out to bring 20 paintings. And I was like, what the hell? Like, how am I going to do that? So like, and I remember, I think the first 10 were like lovely, very detailed pieces, and the next 10, I was like, I'm just going to do whatever I can do right now. And then I shipped them off to Dubai, and my dad was kind of like, and it's so funny, at that time, my dad was like, okay, Aadil, if you do this, it's fine. But in the most sense, and I don't blame him at all, he was like, I'm not going to support you anymore, like financially. Like, you're about off to, it's like number 8 on my, I was like, no, look, Dad, inshallah, I hope, inshallah, that this will kind of be it, I hope. And then I left that job, and then they were like, oh, we'll see you next year. I was like, screw you. I'm going back. And I went to Dubai in February of 2014, February 4th. I remember that date. That'll always be the date that I'll remember. And she organized a show, and I sold 16 of those 20 pieces in that one weekend. And this was back when my work was still pretty basic at the time, but it was, it was nowhere near where I'm at now in my career. But I was like, what? And I effectively kind of made like a small little salary in like a weekend. And I was like, this is crazy. I go, what the hell? What's going on over here? And then that kind of just started. And then I was exhibiting in Dubai in 2014, 2015, mixture of home shows, group shows, individual gallery shows. Some were amazing, some were complete rubbish, and I lost money. And there were, again, and even in that period, there were so many times when it would just be a constant thing in the back of my, a lot of people in the family would be like, why is Adam doing this? Why can't Adam stop it? And I was like, no, I can't. I'm not gonna. This has to become something. I'm not gonna settle with this. So yeah, sorry, I'm going on and on. I'm remembering all the stuff myself.
This is awesome.
Yeah, people are sick of us. They want to hear what you have to say. So this is excellent. Thank you. But I was I was wondering too, like, with the transition from having art be something that you used to do kind of more for yourself, and then suddenly having it potentially be the way that you're going to make your living. Like, I know as someone who's not incredibly artistic, have been reading a lot of stuff where people are saying, like, it's kind of a shame that like this like art, instead of just being a beautiful form of human expression, is oftentimes like it is being monetized now, and it is being kind of like are you good at this or not? Like that's the question of like, should you continue to do this, or should you pursue this as like a passion? And so like, was there ever any kind of difficulty in transitioning from something that brought you so much kind of peace and joy to yourself personally, and then having it now be something that like you're sharing with the world?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, and I think it's of the last few years. Obviously, I think in the beginning it was just kind of me painting for myself and doing what I wanted to do, and then obviously it shifted into becoming, I guess, my means of income. And then creating work based off of what other people wanted me to do. And then obviously now it's become like a fully fledged business. There's other people involved now in my little team that I have, and there's stuff just outside of the actual painting work. I mean, there's lots of other things happening and stuff. But what I've recently found and I want to do more of is just working on my own personal collections a lot more, where I get to just paint for me, create what I want to paint, put it out there in the world, and hopefully it's received really well. Because there was a period of time where, I totally lost. It just became a little bit of a production factory, really, where I was just, what started off as something I was passionate about, then became obviously a business, and then I was just painting for other people. I was just effectively their hands. Obviously based off what I was doing, but they'd all come to me with very, very specific details, this, color this, the lettering should be exactly here. And I was like, okay, there's not much creativity really involved here for me now. So, that's changed a lot now. Alhamdulillah, now it's changed a lot, where all my clients now predominantly only design work based off what I've created in the past, or what I would like to do. And the collections are my kind of way of still keeping true that essence which started this in the beginning. But I'm not going to shy away from the fact that this is obviously my livelihood. And I want to be, and I don't want to ever shy away from that, because I feel like, I've, alhamdulillah, slowly, and I'm still in the growth period, but I am purely financially, alhamdulillah, I can't say enough, financially stable purely through selling artwork. I mean, just recently I just bought my first house. And all that was from selling artwork. I mean, that's my only income. So to say that, I feel extremely humbled and extremely blessed, and to, if anything, to kind of show everybody else that, see, it took a bit long, but I finally, I'm at a good place now, and I hope, inshallah, I can just kind of continue to build from this, because I think a lot of people just always assume, and especially in our communities, that you can't have a financially stable creative career. You kind of have to go down those more traditional paths, and yes, I mean, that is a much easier way, but I think it's damn hard. And one of my favorite artists, he said this recently in an interview, his name is El Seed. I think it's so much harder to be an artist or any kind of creative than a doctor, lawyer. I mean, I'm not bringing anybody down or anything when I say that, but I just mean there is a set path for all of those professions. They know you put in this many hours, you do this kind of work, you're going to get here. Whereas I have done so much work and received nothing in return for it. I've gone to so many places, traveled, exhibitions, taken the work, stories of me taking my work in my car, in Dubai, in the trunk, going from house to house to house to house, trying to sell it. People don't see all those things. And, there's so much grafting, and it's one of those things you can't really switch off. It's a 24/7 thing. And, and I'm okay with that, because obviously it's my baby, and I'm working really hard for myself. And I think that the thread throughout all of, when I look back at this last decade, I think has been like, I've just wanted to work hard for me. I've never really I didn't do well, reporting to people. I never did well having a manager or those things. And I was always just like, and I kept praying, okay, whatever it is, can I just have something which is mine? And, and alhamdulillah, it's kind of happening right now. So, and I hope it continues. So, yeah.
No, it's super interesting, because we've had a chance to speak to so many independent artists on this podcast, and throughout our experience with the Mosquers, and this is something that we don't touch on enough, right? Is the actual kind of the business aspect of it, in my opinion, because I do think that as Sophia mentioned, there's a bit of a balancing act between this is something that is very personal to me. We had actually a very similar conversation with Amir Suleiman, who's like he's an incredible poet, and talking about how for him his poetry is like a secret, and when he shares it, it's very it's like a very personal journey, right? And balancing that idea of something that's very personal, very coming from a very creative place, with this, we need to live, and this requirement to actually make some sort of a living off of this. Do you have? My question would be: do you have any sort of advice or experience share that you can give to sort of young artists who might be listening to this conversation, and in terms of how you can go from, without completely sort of abandoning your creative side of the equation? How can you monetize your work? How should you think about monetizing your work in a way that can then become sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to give an answer, which is just my own personal experience.
Of course, yeah.
And like I said, there's no right or wrong way to navigate, an artist's career. But I remember something which my brother-in-law told me early on in the beginning of my art career, and he would always tell me, "You need to value your own work. At the moment you don't value your own work, then other people are going to constantly give you a price, tell you what you should charge, tell you what you should do, and all that." And that all was kind of happening in the beginning. I was kind of basing off what other people were kind of comfortable with, and then just sticking to that. And I think I broke free of that after I had the confidence in my own work, and I'd put the hours in, I'd grafted away, and it's a process. You can't all of a sudden start charging a certain amount for your work and expect a reaction from that. But he said, this word established artist, what is this established? When are you going to be established? No one's ever an established a creative. You're constantly growing and learning. Right. So he said to me, the moment you need to value yourself, and you need to start pricing and figuring out what your worth is and put it out there in the world, and you're gonna get a lot of people who are gonna say, no, how can you do that? Who do you think of yourself? You're not that big, blah blah blah. And there were so many opportunities that at the beginning I would just say yes to, because it was money, and I used to always think that amount is better than zero. But
Mm-hmm.
there's only, and you always hover at this kind of mediocre kind of level. And I had to really, it took a lot of mental and, perseverance to say no to stuff which I would normally have said yes to, with the hope and inshallah kind of, intent that, no, I am going to be able to charge this price. And I just kept on going with the path I kept on practicing, I kept on creating, I kept on putting out work, even if it didn't even sell. I would just continue creating. So, and then alhamdulillah, things eventually stuck. So, I mean, I hope that answers that to an extent.
Yeah.
And I get asked this a lot, how did you get started? And I'm like, you just need to start. You just need to start and just start painting and start getting the confidence with your brush, getting the confidence with the strokes, get whatever theme or medium you want to use. There's no time when it's going to all of a sudden click. It's if you put in all that work and then those hours and your intent is, I love what I'm doing, and it really does show. I used to always think when people just tell me that, oh, that's so floofy, but there was a shift for me when I actually spent some time and loved what I was doing. The work that I was creating in conjunction to my mental state really was showing. And it was funny, and I won't go into detail, but the time when I was in a really sad time in 2013, when I'd come back from all those careers, that was some of my best work I've created. I did some amazing, really intricate, detailed stuff, and I tried some gradient work, and I was doing all this stuff. And it's crazy how that brought out some entire different side to my work, and that was received so well. And like your Omar was saying, I feel that for artists or any creative people, it's such a vulnerable thing. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm creating something from nothing, putting it out there, and then waiting for everybody to be like, yeah, I don't like that. I'm actually, yeah, no, I like that. And sometimes I'm like, screw you, who the hell are you talking about? But there is there is a very vulnerable state, and I used to always be so shy in exhibitions, and I wouldn't want to talk about my work because I don't really necessarily want you to know exactly what I was thinking at the time when I created that piece, and you don't need to know everything at the end of the day. And I'm not Arab speaking. I resonate with the language, and I'm very blessed. I've been given this talent that I can do this. And I used to always feel that people are expecting like this really deep, intense, mysterious kind of artists and answers and stuff. And I'm kind of like, I'm just blessed that I can do this. And I just want to put beauty out there and create cool, fun stuff, have cool projects, let people look at the Arabic script in a completely new light. I mean, alhamdulillah, I have so many non-Muslim clients now buying my work, which is for me like the biggest win, because the fact that I've kind of broken that barrier for them to look at Arabic and actually appreciate it and not be scared from it or anything, or have any negative connotations. They want to appreciate it as a work of art. So, that's taken 7 years to get to that point now. And I hope, inshallah, it just continues, and blending other scripts with the Arabic script. And there's still a subset of people who will always be, oh, you can't do that, or you can't do that. I'm like, why not? I mean, if people are talking about or showcasing our faith and people like us in a positive way, I feel like we should all be advocates for that, as opposed to putting people down and telling people, oh, you can't do that, you shouldn't do that. So yeah, anyway, bit segue there. But yes, no, just start. just start and go in with the best intentions, and yeah, just keep on creating.
Yeah, no, that was so good. And yes, inshallah your success continues, because I think it's incredible to have an artist in the community who does that. And that was perfectly leads into my next question. So thank you for that segue, actually, because I wanted to talk about the transition into Islamic art, and kind of that more of the calligraphy and more of that in your work. And you, in an interview, I believe, said Islamic art is like Islam without the baggage. And I wonder if you can maybe elaborate on that a little bit, because I get it, but I would love to hear more about what you meant by that.
And again, I'm not going to I hope I don't step on anybody's toes when I say whatever I say about, because obviously for everybody, faith is such a personal, thing. And, I don't sit here and tell myself or tell others that, oh, this is the way it should be done and blah, 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 blah. But for me, I just feel, especially the kind of press our faith gets, sadly, the kind of the negative PR or the preconceived notions people have of Islam, of Muslims. They say Islam is one of the best religions, but Muslims are the kind of worst followers. All these various, you hear all these things that people kind of bandy about. But for me, it was, I don't know. I just felt, why can't the buck just stop at appreciating this beautiful art form which comes from this faith, and like this full stop. Like literally this full stop. No one needs to go into any other kind of depth of, oh no, but where's the source of that? And are you allowed to do that? Is that haram? Is that halal? And I'm just like, look, I'm always respectful of the script. I will always, for them, always be in visual state when I'm painting, and I'm very cognizant of all these other various things. But I just don't think that people always portray our religion in a more accessible, approachable, just very non-confrontational way. I mean, and it's funny, I'm in DC, so it's a very kind of, political area, and everybody's very highly strung about so many things. And there I am, just painting away, and ayats from the Quran and Rumi poetry, and it's kind of, this shows that people really resonate with the kind of, and I mentioned this word before, but I'd like to think my work lets people kind of escape a little bit and kind of get lost in the forms and the shapes, and how I've manipulated the lettering, and how I've kind of deconstructed it. And I'm not a trained calligrapher. I'll never say I'm a calligrapher. I respect them way too much. I'm an artist first and foremost, who loves this form of art the most, and I feel a little bit of responsibility that I'm an artist who happens to be Muslim, and if I can, in my own way, showcase to people how beautiful our faith is, this script is, and I'm a Muslim, like to think a cool person who's doing it, with creating reels on Instagram, having cool lo-fi music associated with the work, and just make it just a much more approachable thing. I feel like it just takes away any kind of and alhamdulillah, and honestly I have to say alhamdulillah, I've been blessed to not get any kind of hate or any kind of negative feedback towards my work, or why do you associate music when you're painting or doing all these things. And we are Muslims of the 21st century. We are in 2021. I mean, I know my relationship to God. I know He knows me, my journey, my struggle. He knows your journeys, your struggles. So I don't feel anybody should judge us for what we're doing, what we're putting out there, when I know my intention, I like to think, is pure, and is hopefully going to benefit others, and highlight us as acclimatized, cool, fun people who are just doing really really good, cool stuff. I mean, some of the projects I have coming up. I mean, I can't. Can I mention? I could. It's all kind of happening, but there's some really cool stuff happening, which I can't wait for it to happen, because then people will see it in a completely different light, and then it's kind of like. Because people in the past always tell me, oh, this is your responsibility. And I'd be like, no, it's not. But now I'm kind of like, well, maybe it kind of is a little bit my responsibility with the little small platform I have to just really push forward this narrative of Muslims just doing some really cool stuff that Muslims, non-Muslims, and everybody's engaging with. And it's still seen as Islamic, but there's nothing else to it except just enjoy it. That's kind of it. Sorry, again, my answer probably really just waffly and going round.
No, this is perfect. We love this.
That's it, really.
That was excellent. Thank you. And it was really funny when you were talking, I don't know why, but there's that song that Justin Bieber has called Lonely with Chance the Rapper. And there's that part where Chance the Rapper is like, we believe in God, and I know God believe in us. And I don't know why, but what you just said, I was like, that's the lyric that popped into my head. And I was like, yeah, man, God believes in us too. Anyway, so I just had one more question about your calligraphy.
I love it.
So you have done really, really beautiful calligraphy. And one of I was scoping out your Instagram, and on I think it was on your murals highlight, when you're kind of talking about just showing all the murals that you've done, which are very cool, and just one day when I'm in the income bracket for homeownership, inshallah, please come and paint all of my walls. Inshallah. Inshallah, yes. But I think it was so cool because you kind of mentioned how with the calligraphy, you have the prayer, and you said, and I'm paraphrasing badly, but you said the prayer gets lost in the abyss of the calligraphy, but it is always the foundation. And I thought that was such a beautiful metaphor for life. And I wanted to ask you, what do you feel is your foundation as an artist? Do you feel that relates to you in any way in your artwork?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and especially all the various experiences, which I've obviously bored you all with in my short lifespan, that I've done. I think throughout all of this chaos of various, trying to find myself and a career and happiness and contentment and stability and all these things, I feel like the one thing that has been the entire constant throughout my entire life has been that personal connection that I have to God. And then I guess segueing my faith, be it the way the way I kind of follow it. So it was, I guess for me, the foundation is knowing that I'm doing something I'd like to think, I come back to the previous thing of propelling goodness, inshallah, into the world. And I guess I like to showcase that through the work with this kind of, again, because I get some clients who are very much, they want legible work, which can be seen, it can be read, it's fairly linear. But most of my clients, thankfully, gravitate to the more abstract approach where I will write the prayer, I will write your poem, I will create it as the foundation of this specific piece. And then I will give it chaos. I will give it all kinds of color, texture, sheen, this, that, and the other, and create a beautiful design. But deep down in between all of that, and normally I'll send them a picture, like FYI, it's over here. And then the rest of it will get lost. That kind of that represents the foundation that I have in knowing, and everybody has with their own connection to God or whoever, or no God, or whatever they have, of grounding. And then around it is all this kind of chaos, which in turn can become something really beautiful when you take a step back and look at it. And I think that's where the non-Muslim clients really appreciate it, because they can appreciate it as a form of art. And then the Muslim clients or people who come to me saying, "Oh, Adil, I love this one specific verse, but I want it to get lost in your style. And I want to know that, there is an Ayatul Kursi behind there, or there is a Surah Rahman behind there. But I don't want it to look overtly Islamic because, new generation, new people with the interiors, they kind of want it to look, art to stand out." So, because growing up, I didn't see any artwork like that. It was all very traditional, very kind of structured, and wooden engraving and all these various things. So it was kind of one of those things where I would see other artists playing around with the script and manipulating letters and doing all these things, and I was like, oh my god, okay, I can give that a try. And then that, I guess, now I've just kind of forged my own style. But the foundation and the basis of every piece that I do will always be something which resonates either with me or resonates with my clients, which they know is something which is very important and personal to them. So that's that.
Cool.
So you've had a chance now to obviously create a career out of your painting and your artwork. You've also collaborated with fashion houses. You've collaborated with motivational speakers and all sorts of different projects. Do you consider painting specifically, your purpose now, or is this in your mind more of a current focus in a life of different kind of creative explorations and journeys?
Yeah, I think you've said that really nicely. I don't think we're ever kind of just set on one thing. It's crazy how the various stuff that have now come out of what I initially thought was just going to be painting on canvas. There's now a whole world of other things opening up, with products, with brands, people wanting the work to be, designed on various, fashion, apparel, jewelry, this, that, and the other. I feel that there's now so much scope. So, people ask me, what was your day like? My day is spent between a mixture of planning things with the various collaborations, sketching things on my iPad for product launches, working on my actual client pieces. I'm currently working on a collection. Oh, I can mention this, I think, for the Aga Khan Museum in Toronto.
Cool.
They've commissioned an entire collection from me, which I'm super excited about. So, there's just so much scope where I feel like I'm always going to be, learning, developing, and having these kind of cool people who are patrons of the work, whenever they share it in their circles, be it non-Muslim, Muslim. I think it's just kind of propelling. And like I said, I'll be honest, sometimes I do get worried about, oh, what else is there going to be next? But then that's a very fleeting thought, because alhamdulillah, something else, a cool project comes along, and, something comes my way. So I just have to always remember that, just keep producing, keeping that good content coming out, stay true to what I started out to do in the beginning. And I feel that inshallah that will keep me going. And who knows? I might go back into acting. Who knows? No.
The world is your oyster, seriously, though. But yeah, I guess
Yes.
like a last question for me is just, or from us, we're a team, is that like, so you've had an incredibly diverse career and you've done so many different creative things. And so do you have a favorite or like a piece of creative work that you're most proud of or that holds like the most value?
I don't know. It's a weird one because I feel the acting, it was a completely different hat and I was in a different mindset, and I wasn't just tackling the acting, it was my environment, it was the people, it was just being away from everybody. And then I moved to the US 4 years ago nearly, and that has been a big shift over here and adjusting to life over here. And now I'm thinking about moving coasts and stuff. So, and not to sound thingy, but no, there's not like one specific moment per se. I'm just really blessed that one thing has led to the other thing, which has led to the other thing, and getting other people to be interested and involved in my journey, and who've kind of been there from the start, and are just kind of who send me such amazing supportive messages, and strangers on Instagram who message me, and they feel something through the work, and they it's transcending just from a screen. These all little things that make me just get okay, fine. I'm doing something right. Let's just keep on going. And, and I have my own ideas as to what I want to do for myself and, inshallah, creating more products and doing my own stuff. But no, there's not, I'm sorry, I don't know if it answers the question. There's not like one specific thing. I'm very blessed that Allah has given me the ability to do all these things, and, health and my parents' support, and still being true to me and my faith. I think that's what's kept me going this far, and I hope it continues to keep me going.
Right on. So before we wrap, we like to do some quick rapid fire questions. Do you have time? Do you have time for some quick rapid fire with us?
I do.
Okay, amazing. All right. So again, this is nothing really to do with your journey, more so to do with things we want to know about you. There's no right or wrong answer. Just first thing that pops in your head, you just go for it. All right. Sounds good?
Okay.
All right, Sophia, take it away.
Okay, so your favorite Madhuri Dixit movie? We heard you're a fan, or movies if there's more than one.
I love where you get your information from. It would be, there's not just one. There's Devdas, Anjam, Mrityudand. I like Koila.
There's a collection.
But yeah, Devdas.
He's going through our IMDb page.
The greatest hits, yeah.
Devdas. We'll go with Devdas.
Okay, awesome. Number 2, what is your most regrettable purchase?
Oh God, this is pathetic. And I don't spend on brands, but I once stupidly bought after that Dubai show, thinking, I have all this money. I bought this horrendous brown, like poo color Gucci Prada bag, which is so expensive at the time. And I didn't even use. I left it's in my bedroom in the UK under a bed. I didn't even have it. I regret that for sure.
That's a good one.
Amazing.
Right on.
A book you would take with you to a deserted island.
A book. I have to be very honest. I'm not a very good reader.
Or if you're not a reader, a show that you would recommend, like your most rewatched movie or show.
Most rewatched. Well, I'm actually, funnily enough, rewatching because I'm just in between time, Desperate Housewives.
Oh, okay. All right. Right on. There it is. That's your deserted island. That's your deserted island. There you go. Right on. Okay. Number 4. Do you have a favorite Rumi quote?
Yes, I do. It's "In your light, I learn how to love," and I have it tattooed on my arm here.
Oh, right on.
Cool.
That's cool.
Those are all sick tats, by the way. They look really cool. If you want to give us a tat tour, I would be very okay with that.
I'll send you a picture.
And then lastly, the question we love to ask everyone is, what is your favorite way to eat potatoes? So like fries or waffle fries or scalloped or mashed or all the good stuff.
Adil's face was just like...
Oh dear. Would you be upset if I said I'm not a huge potato fan?
No, I
Oh my
would be
God.
thrilled. Actually, this is the
only
best of
happened-
all answers. If you
That's
answer
only
that way.
happened one other time on this podcast. Sikandar
This is
does not like potatoes either. So
Oh my God,
that's fair.
I don't mind. I don't mind
So
it in
many
when I make this Hyderabadi dish called keema with aloo with the potatoes. That's the only time I don't mind it mixed with the keema. But other than that, I'm not.
Yeah, it's because it's the keema that you're actually liking, and the aloo is just there for the journey. That's why.
Exactly.
That's the problem with.
Listen,
that's the problem with
Put
Cleanse
some
potatoes.
the
respect
There
on
you
the
go, man.
potato's
There you go.
name, would you?
Unbelievable.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Don't fall for Sophia's potato lobbyist.
I love it. That's the best question. That's the best
Yeah,
question.
there you go. Adil, thank you so much for your
Thank
time
you.
today. This was an absolute pleasure. For those who are looking for your work, where can they find it?
Instagram is the best place. It's the best portfolio of all my work and all my stupid things I get up to, TikToks and all these various other things. So yeah, Instagram would be the best place.
And that's at Aadil Abedi. Abedi.
Perfect.
I've learned one thing today. It's unfortunate.
Well done.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much again. This was
Thanks,
an
guys.
absolute pleasure. All right, right on.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of The Halal Gap. Join us in 2 weeks for our next guest, Danish Maqbool. The Halal Gap is a Mosquers production. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok by searching Mosquers Film Festival. Thank you to our sound and video editor, Arish Jamil, our tile artist, Narmeen Sayed, and our podcast producer, Asif Qureshi. On behalf of Sikandar and myself, thank you for joining us. Catch you next time.